Chief Galucci, you're up.
All right, well, good morning, everybody from the virtual future. I just wanted to remind everybody that this is being broadcast and recorded for awareness. So welcome to the May 13th Chiefs and Sheriffs Management Committee meeting. Before we jump into the meeting, I will ask our clerk to confirm that we have a quorum. Tessa, are we good to go?
Good morning. Yes, there is a quorum for this meeting.
Okay, thank you. I will hand it over to Samantha Folk from Sandag Legal for a brief summary on meeting protocols.
Good morning, everyone. So first, for our committee members, please use the raise hand icon at the top right of your screen for questions, comments, motions, and seconds. Although there is a comment or question box on the side of the screen, we're not using that function for this meeting. Please also identify yourself each time you speak. And when called on for a motion or a second, please state you are making the motion or seconding the motion. Attendees' microphones will be muted by default, and the chair will be able to see a list of all members who have raised their hands. When he calls on you to speak, you will be unmuted by our production team, and you'll see the microphone icon at the top right of your screen turn from red to green. Please do not click on the microphone icon yourself. If you mute yourself, our team can't unmute you. By state law, all votes in a teleconference meeting must be by roll call vote. After there has been a motion and a second, the clerk will call for the vote of each member individually, and that member will be unmuted to vote. For our members of the public, any comments that were received by the clerk of the board by 4 p.m. yesterday were provided to all members of the committee in advance of today's meeting. The public can also email comments during today's meeting by emailing clerk@sandag.org, identifying the item number for the comment and the name of the commenter. After each presentation and member questions on an item, we will take any needed time to compile comments that were received from the public on that item. The clerk will then read all comments that were submitted. Mindful of the number of items today and the need to keep a quorum, the chair has set a limit of 1 minute per comment. Only the first minute of each comment will be read, but the entire written comment will be made a part of the meeting record. And that concludes my preamble for today. Back to the chair.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Did we have somebody? Okay, so as a reminder, please raise your hands to make comments or motions. The management committee is asked to approve the minutes from the first agenda item, or agenda item number 2 is approval of the meeting minutes. The management committee is asked to approve the minutes from February 5, 2020. Do I have a motion for the minutes?
Chair, this is Tessa, the clerk. I'd like to comment that there are no public comments on this item.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
This is Roxana Kennedy. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from February 5th, 2020.
Thank you, Rox. Do I have a second?
We have Assistant Chief Kelly Martinez with their hand up.
As I second the motion.
Thank you. Do we have any member comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, do we have any public comments on this item? You already said no, we're good to go. Tessa, would you please begin the roll call vote?
Yes, sir. On item 2, the minutes, Chief Galucci.
Aye.
Chief Kennedy.
Aye.
Chief K.
Aye.
Chief Moulton. You are unmuted. And we cannot hear you, Chief.
Can you hear me now? I vote aye.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Chief Varso.
Aye.
Chief Vasquez, I do not see, is absent. Chief Tellez, I believe, is absent. Chief McCoy.
Aye.
Assistant Investigator Cargill, Chief Cargill.
Aye.
San Diego County Probation Department is absent. Chief Stainbrook.
So Tessa, this is James. It doesn't look like Chief Stainbrook is connected via audio right now.
I sent him a pin. I'm not sure. I don't know if we want to, oh, he may be trying to call back in again. Okay, we'll mark him as absent unless he comes on before I'm done. Chief Albrechtson.
Aye.
And Assistant Chief Martinez.
Aye.
That concludes the roll call vote for item 1, and it passes with 2, 3, 4 member agencies absent.
Okay,
This is Roxana Kennedy. If I could just add real quick, Walt Vasquez sent me a message. He said he is listening on the telephone.
thanks, Rox. Moving on to agenda item number 3, public comments. Do we have any?
There are no general public comments, Chair.
Thank you, Tessa. Moving on to member comments. Do we have any member comments? If we do, raise your hand at this time.
This is Cindy. I don't have a hand raised button, but I would like to share some information.
Okay, go ahead, Cindy.
Okay, hi, everybody. Good to virtually connect with you. We are going to be releasing our annual 2019 crime report on Tuesday of next week. And per how we do this every year, I'll be sending it to you on Thursday. It will go to city managers on Friday and then elected officials on Monday so that you have a chance to preview it. Just to kind of give you a heads up, property crime is at a 40-year low, and violent crime was the 4th lowest rate that we've seen across the years. But I also wanted to give you a heads up, and Craig may want to add some information to this. We're getting a lot of questions already and a lot of public records requests for data because everybody wants to know what's going on with public safety during our public health crisis right now. And we have put together a few slides that we were going to be presenting at the PSC. I've given Chief Gallucci a heads up on that. And the story that we think is important to convey and get ahead of is that it's a very short period of time and there's a lot of things going on. And we got a lot of questions like this when we went into the recession in 2008. What do we think is going to happen? So we wanted to share some insights that we were going to share at that meeting. And then we were also going to put out a 1-pager to get ahead of any stories that are coming out so that we can make it clear that, for example, like if domestic violence people are asking, is that up? That if it's up or down, it could be a good thing if people are reporting. So we want to provide that context when people see the numbers. And we worked with Argus and looked at the number of, we have some statistics that we want to get your approval to share of the number of aggravated assaults, simple assaults, larcenies, and domestic violence, comparing March and April of 2019 to 2020. We were going to share those if that's okay with you, and I will be following up post this meeting in an email to everybody, and we would just be presenting that at the regional level. So we definitely don't want to put anything out that that you all aren't comfortable with. So I'm happy to answer any questions right now or follow up with you one-on-one after this meeting. And Craig, I don't know if you want to add anything, or Chief Gallucci.
Yeah, Cindy, the only thing I add is that we have had several requests for COVID-19 related crime stats, and oftentimes the narrative is not going to reflect exactly what we're seeing in the crime. So maybe getting ahead of it by putting this out would help all the agencies.
So Cindy, I was just wondering, and I know we've had this conversation before, but so I'll give you for instance, my crime cases are down, but my calls for service are up. Is there a way to reflect that in the report to show that law enforcement is still busy, just not taking all the crime cases we were in the past?
I think that would be great to talk with you about. We can see what we could potentially pull, and I can't remember off the top of my head, I don't think the calls for service data is an Argus, but if I could put in there, I could put a line in there, I could follow up with you after this meeting and convey that that's an important context to consider, even if we don't have the numbers here. And then if we come out with, we're doing, I don't know if you all have seen like economic reports, we just did traffic on the freeways. So it's possible we could do another one pager that delves deeper into this. I was gonna show this during our, the budget update, but the DA's office, Joe, you may have a heads up on this. Rachel Solak reached out to me about potentially looking at the people who are getting released from jail or not getting booked at all because of the zero bail. And we were going to potentially see if we could help there. So we see this as an ongoing issue to keep informing the discussion. So I can follow up with you one-on-one after that to add something here and potentially do more.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else have input on that? Okay, seeing none.
Yes.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Chief Stanbrook, now on audio, would like to speak.
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
I'm good. I just want to say that I'm here and I was having problems with my audio. So thank you that it's on now.
Copy.
And Chief,
All
if
right.
you could just leave yourself unmuted, we will take care of that as the chair calls on you.
All right, if there's no further comments, we'll move on to agenda item number 4, report from the Public Safety Committee. I will present this item. The Public Safety Committee meetings of February 21st, March 20, and April 17, 2020 were canceled. The next PSC meeting is Friday, May 15, 2020 at 1 p.m. Any committee members' comments regarding this? Tessa, are there any public comments on this item?
There are no public comments on item 4.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 5, draft fiscal year 2021 public safety work program and budget. As part of the draft FY 2021 program budget, staff has proposed a public safety work program and budget that encompasses the activities, priorities, expenses, and revenue sources for ARGIS and criminal justice research. The Management Committee is asked to review and discuss the public safety work program and budget and recommend that the Public Safety Committee recommend approval of this budget as part of the final FY 2021 program. Sandy Keaton and Craig Carter will be presenting this item. We will begin with Sandy, manager of Sandag's Criminal Justice Research Division. Sandy?
Actually, Cindy's going to do this one.
Okay, Cindy.
I am
We switched it. We like to, like, you know, keep you on your toes.
It's okay. We're flexible.
Perfect. There's
Sorry
a
about
screen.
that.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, so we can go to the second slide. Thank you. So our budget for FY21 right now is 1.42 million, and that is greater than it was last year when it was 1.13 million. We have, it's a 26% increase, and 98% of that is due to new grants. You can see from our clearinghouse is 233,274. That reflects the CPI increase of just 3%, so it's about $7,000 more across the region that's shared by the agencies according to their population. We're continuing to conduct the SAM program, substance abuse monitoring in the jails, and I'll be talking about that a little bit more in the coming slides. And then our adult projects went from about 388,000 last year to 400 and almost 80,000 this year. And we call those adult projects because they're focused more on the adult population in the justice system. And then our juvenile projects went from about 378,000 to 571,000, almost 572,000. So I'll be talking about that. Just for some context, 84% of our funding does come from the grants that we're able to bring into the region. Okay, next slide. So focusing on the clearinghouse, there's 7 big things that come under here. So I think we really do a lot with that 233,000. We obviously compile the region's crime data and provide the context for that. Supporting local task forces and commissions. When we shared our accomplishments the last time we were together, we talked about how our data is used by the Meth Strike Force, Prescription Drug Abuse Task Force. We try to get out our data regularly in those bulletins and the CJ flashes and the in briefs that you'll be getting from me later today. With the SAM data, we're able to put that out, and it really is the only measure of objective drug use to track some of the other data that we're seeing, and then also provide other sources of information, supporting the Public Safety Committee, and then also going out and trying to share objective information with the community too. When you get the crime bulletin, for example, that we'll be sharing with you, we made those one-pagers again, so hopefully that could be something that your community service officers could share when they're trying to educate people in your community about how many larcenies, for example, come from motor vehicle thefts, or how many burglaries are through unlocked doors and windows. And then, as you can see from the funding, how I said most of our increased funding does come from grants. We're able to bring in about $4 for every $1 in clearinghouse funds that we do get from the member agencies. Next slide. And again, just why do we care about the clearinghouse data? I think especially with NIVERS coming online and public records requests and people wanting to get in and look at data, we provide that context and that historical analysis. We really see our work with you as an iterative process where we may hear things that are going on anecdotally, and then we can try to objectively provide that information to the public and policymakers, and then we're able to learn from you. And also, just as a reminder, for the past few years, all our staff have gone through the sheriff's background check, so we do have that level 1 security check to enable us to get in and look at the data, and so that you know that there's just not anybody getting in there and looking at it. So we take that very seriously. Next slide, please. So SAM, our substance abuse monitoring program, we are going to be looking at how we do this. We had to not go into the facilities, obviously, in May or June because of COVID. So we're going to see if we can make up 20 data collection later in the year, and we'll be talking with the Sheriff's Department about that. But for those of you who maybe haven't seen me present the data, this was done nationally in 35 cities. We're the only site that's kept it going uninterrupted. So we do have data back since 2000. The funding from that comes from HIDA, the County of San Diego, and then in addition to the clearinghouse, some of the member agencies support that. And that $135,000 is no change from last year, and it enables us to go in and do the staffing, do the drug testing, and then also reimburse the Sheriff's Department for the deputies who help support us when we're in the facilities. Next slide, please. Just to kind of give you a heads up, new questions that we added in 2020 were additional questions about human trafficking, prescription drug abuse, obviously, and we know what's going on with fentanyl and some of the counterfeit pills that are out there. So we asked more questions about, did you get hooked on prescription drugs after legitimate use, the counterfeit pills, and then we've added more questions given some of the interest at the county level about youth vaping. Have they gotten sick from it? Where did they obtain it? And so we'll be sharing that information from the 2019 interviews with you soon. Next slide, please. So our adult projects, that was the projects that have gone up about $100,000 compared to last year. The first two projects we reported on to you last year, we're doing our evaluation of Prop 47, and that actually got in 1 year no cost extension. Smart Star is a grant that we wrote with the Probation Department and Health and Human Services to provide reentry services to individuals in East County, and that's now been expanded. And I would like to note that about $185,000 of that $258 is actually going back to the county for treatment beds for reentering offenders from our local system. Human trafficking, last year we just had one grant with North County Lifeline. We now have 3 grants, so that funding has gone up considerably. It was only about $69,000 last year, so that was an additional work providing evaluation services for them. And then the drug policy analysis is a new project, and that's the one that I spoke with you all about before, where we got funding from HIDA, and we were going to hopefully be doing focus groups by now, but obviously that's been put on hold. But we want to try to get a better understanding of what are the key issues, and then how can we merge different data sets to get a better understanding of issues related to potentially the gray market related to marijuana, meth, mental health, and we'll be continuing that project on as soon as we can get more in contact with people. Next slide, please. So our juvenile projects, that's where we had our greatest increase in funding, and the first 3, we've had all these projects reported in the last fiscal year as well, but some of the funding amounts have changed because most of our projects are multi-year efforts. JJCPA is our ongoing evaluation of Juvenile Crime Prevention Act programs with the Probation Department. Red is reducing racial and ethnic disparities. We're doing an evaluation, continuing our work that used to be called DMC, disproportionate minority contact. And that funding has gone up again because it's a multi-year project. CalVIP is an effort in the South Bay with state funding to look at gang-related activity. And then SDPN is our Promise Neighborhood effort. And you may have be familiar with some of the work that we did in South Bay when we had Chula Vista Promise Neighborhood. And this is funding that came out to look more in some other South Bay, South areas of San Diego. And we're continuing to do that, looking at how they're reinvigorating small pockets in those communities. Next slide, please. So just to kind of highlight what our priorities are through the clearinghouse to continue to provide information, to work with ARGIS as we're trying to transition, and we'll be working with you all of reporting on the NIBRS data and how do we do that in a way that's meaningful and continue our comparisons to the UCR data, seeking grant funding whenever possible, providing relevant and timely information to you, continuing to work in the community. And we're looking forward to see everybody's faces again soon, hopefully, and then also contributing to other department goals and initiatives within SANDAG. So I'm happy to answer any questions or wait till after Katie and Craig have a chance to share their fiscal information.
Any questions for Cindy? Okay, so thank you, Cindy. I will now turn it over to Interim Director of ARGIS, Craig Carter.
Thank you, Chief Galucci. I'm going to go over our 2021 budget for Chiefs Sheriff's Management Committee. Next slide, please. So just our priorities, we're going to update our incident response plan and regional policies. As those change, we'll roll out different changes to the plan, just in case, any type of cyber intrusion, that we're on top of it, at least on the database side of it. Complete transition to the NIBRS, the reporting system, and the new public website. NIBRS is going to be a big part of our, and has been a big part of what ARGIS has been doing. So we're going to continue that effort and develop any regional communications policies or outreach strategies that the departments through ARGIS can use. Cost model assessment. I'm going to be looking at possible membership restructuring, kind of cleaning it up a little bit, making sure that ARGIS is sustainable through years to come. Implementing results for the new network vulnerability assessment that we conducted in 2020, and we continue to pick off pieces of that as we have time, and we'll continue to do that through the next year. And network redesign for enhanced security. Next slide, please. So the 2021 budget, the core member agencies fees will remain unchanged. The member affiliates fees unchanged as well. The ex officio's annual fee adjustment based on consumer price index. For 2021, the increase of 3.24% for San Diego County, making that total budget $7,353,404. Next slide, please. There's a little breakdown, a visual to see what we where we spend our money at 19% there in grants, 14% new tools, 16% administration, 21% maintenance, and 30% infrastructure. This I'll break each one of these down next. Next slide, please. Next slide after that. Infrastructure is we break it up into three different areas. We're looking at the security piece, system administration, and network. In security, we're looking for firewall and intrusion monitoring, antivirus software, and that ever-changing compliance with FBI, CJIS, and Cal DOJ security. The system administration, we monitor 165 plus servers. We maintain about 170 terabytes of data storage, and disaster recovery and backup is also something we work on, that systems administration. In network includes circuits and routers for 60 plus sites throughout the county, 24/7 monitoring and security stability redundancy, which is obviously very important with all the intrusions that every network is always after. One more slide, please. Just as a reminder that as you can see that the ARGIS network is pretty much reached by everybody that's within the group, but certainly if you're, as an example on the left, La Mesa PD dispatch goes into ARGIS network in order to access surfers and CopLink through ARGIS, or the sheriff's SD law or GIMS, and then also with Cal DOJ through warrants or Cal Photo. So it's important we keep this running and we keep it as tight as possible in that infrastructure piece. Next slide, please. Just an update on our Argus mobile program. We have 1,200 plus devices now deployed, 10 plus applications, 30 agencies are now using it, and we continue to have a 24/7 support. And we continue to get also some great feedback from our individuals in the field with identifying criminal activity and working with the Argus programs and the applications in order to identify the bad players, if you will, out in the field. So it's been a handy tool and I think something now that we can't live without. Next slide, please. And next slide after that. So maintenance and support, we have a lot of data center information and hosting services that we have. Again, we maintain about 50 plus interfaces, see records management systems through probation and courts, traffic accidents, Cal DOJ, just to name a few, and maintaining those interfaces, constantly making sure that as they change, we change, and that we're monitoring everything that's happening within those interfaces. Monitor database performance, space, and reliability, always making sure that we have enough space for sure and that we are operating at peak performance. We support about 165 virtual and physical servers. We have a GIS and mapping support, application development team, which allows us to make changes on the fly rather than going back to a vendor and asking them for a price on small changes. Our team can take care of that typically internally. And help desk, we resolved about 503 trouble tickets last 2019. I anticipate that number only to increase as we continue to get more people on board. Next slide, please. And then application support, in-house application development. So I talked about earlier with Surfers, ONS, and all the other programs that we have. Argus implements changes upon agency request. We did 172 enhancements implemented in 2019. And that's a combined effort of everybody that's using the program saying that, hey, it would be nice if we could do this, or if this program could do this. And we're able with our software developers in-house to be able to make those changes, as I kind of call it, on the fly. Software licenses and upgrades to CopLink and mapping dashboards and Argus law enforcement public portal. These fees are shared by 80 agencies, and that certainly helps in economic scale. It's not a charge per person. It's taking that as an example at the bottom, CopLink 64,000 annual fee. Divide that out by the 60 agencies. We're pushing it about $1,000 per agency. It would be, I think, very difficult if every agency had to do their own CopLink. As an example, that'd be $64,000 hit each agency. We're able to share that among our users. Next slide, please. And one more slide. Administration, Police Advisory Committee, we support the finance and budget, accounting, payable and receivable, and we do audits. Legal and public records requests, we get those constantly through Argus and work to get those through approval through the business working group and the chiefs group. Our operations are part of rent and phones and salaries and supplies. We support the help desk, user support, weekly logs, service logs. We administer the grants, contract execution, and interagency agreements. Certainly the executive oversight and personnel and recruitment. Next slide, please. So on the new tools side, NIBRS has been a big part of what we've been doing, and I just want to give you an example on how we scale this out and try to flatten out the amount of money that each agency and cost of full-time employee would be. On the left is the requirements from FBI, Cal DOJ, that we have to have secure connection to FBI and Cal DOJ, NIBRS compliance certificate. We have to conform to data and content of NIBRS business rules, and we convert that data and required message formatting for submission to FBI, Cal DOJ. If each agency was to take that on themselves, the resources they would have to come to bear would be, I think, tremendous. And certainly on securing the connection with a network engineer would have to have that a task as well, with certificates, firewalls, making sure that it's all done correctly. And then on the compliance certificate, each agency submit records for a minimum of 6 months in order to get compliance and a certificate that we can start pushing our data. Each agency would have to do that, and I'll cover that with Argus right now. We have one certificate for the entire region that allows every agency that's attached to Argus to submit data, but not every agency has to do it. Changes to records management system to capture all business rules and relationships. That's certainly very a daunting task. It can be. We create program language to convert data in record management systems. And if you can see on the right-hand side that Argus staff has been providing this, we have one secure ArgusNet connection established for the region, so everybody pushes their data through one location. One certificate for the entire region. After the 6 months is over and the testing is completed, we will be able to push data based on that one certificate, not every agency having their own. Regional rules implemented for all agencies regardless of records management system, so it works. Interoperability is perfect. Regional program language and development for all NIBRS interfaces. So you can see that the scalable information here is that we have, basically we're saving some full-time employees. You know, if you add that with all the 11 agencies, it's a considerable cost savings throughout the county. Next, please. New tools and grants, SURFers and ONS, we have updated versions for that as well. We're trying to update ONS and SURFers results for real-time alerting. Always have new business rules and associated policies on ONS created either through the local agencies or through the state. And then new SURFers data source and mapping so that we can push that information back to the agencies and out to the public. With NIBRS coming on, public crime statistics will be enhanced access to regional data, and we'll assist with PRAs and enhanced public mapping so that we can, our public can see that as quick as real time as possible. Next slide, please. And we're new tools that we're going to be working on and continue to work on the desktop experience pilot program, the smart watches or wearables that we talk about. Enhanced security protocols, that's always going to be on top of our list. We're going to work on through the UOSI funding and other grants that we're working the fingerprint readers to push those out to our individuals on the street, and situational awareness and location-based services tools so that we can continue to have each agency talking, and especially on a multi-agency incident, that everybody knows where they're at. Next one, please. So just to recap, regional cost savings, we the economies of scale with the pooled resources, the shared enterprise licenses and procurements are just averages of $1 million annually in grant funding and developing metrics to assess and return on investment, just to make sure we're doing what we want to get done, and we want to make sure that we're delivering the products that our end users are requesting. Next slide. And that concludes my presentation, and Chief Galucci, I'll open up for any questions.
Any questions for Craig? Does Katie have input?
Good.
You talked about Katie. Does Katie have anything to say?
She's there to make sure that that I don't misstep and that if I get stuck.
All right, gotcha.
I'm going to keep Craig in line.
Full-time job, by the way.
Got their input. Okay.
So Neil? Frank McCoy has a hand up.
Okay, Frank?
So Neil, I know we're stuck with Craig for a little while more, but one of the things, and I know you're aware, but probably a lot of people haven't been here for a while, but we don't want him negotiating any contracts for us, number one. And number two, just to confirm, I know all of us are looking at some tight budgets coming up. So did I hear that our amount that we'll be paying to Argus is not changing for this next fiscal year?
That's correct, Frank.
Okay, and did you get the thing about the not negotiating contracts, Craig?
Yes, sir. I'll make sure that Sandag Legal and our negotiating team take that on.
All right, thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Tessa, any public comments on this item?
There are no public comments on this item.
Okay. May I have a motion to recommend?
I'll make that motion. Frank
Thank you,
McCoy.
Frank. Do I have a second?
Roxana Kennedy, I'll make a second.
Thank you, Roxana. So Tessa, will you please take a roll call vote?
Thank you. For item 5, the draft work program and budget, Chief Neil Galucci,
Aye.
Chief Kennedy,
Aye.
Chief K, is Chief K still on, James?
Tessa, give me a second. James has left the meeting, so I'm kind of handling all function right now. Let me look.
Thank you. Yes, he's on. Okay. Is that number 4?
Aye.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Moulton,
Aye.
Chief Arso,
Aye.
Chief Vasquez is present, and I had asked him to text his vote.
He texted the vote to me. This is Roxana Kennedy. He voted yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I will record that. Chief Tellez is absent. Chief McCoy,
Aye.
look for Frank. Yes, thank you. Chief Cargill,
Aye.
San Diego Probation Department is absent. Chief Stainbrook,
Aye.
Chief Albrechtson, under Assistant Chief number 13.
Aye.
And Assistant Chief Kelly Martinez.
Aye.
Thank you. That item passes with 2 agencies absent.
Thank you, Tessa. And moving on to agenda item number 6. Coronado
We have
Police.
one hand up. One hand up. Alex Hernandez has his hand up.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, this is Jose Tellez. I'm here with Alex Hernandez. We voted aye, or I voted aye.
Thank you. I'll make that, I'll add that into the record.
Okay, so moving on to agenda item number 6, Coronado Police Chief K and San Diego State University Police Chief Mays will present a proposal from San Diego State University to become an ARGIS data contributing agency. The committee is asked to discuss the proposal, identify options, and recommend next steps. I'll turn it over to Chief K and Chief Mays for their presentation.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Succinctly, yes, we're bringing forward a motion to accept SDSU as a contributing member to ARGIS. I became interested in this project when I worked there as a captain and became acutely aware of the types of criminal activity as well as the types of people that were transiting the campus. And as I began to understand how data worked there at SDSU and learned that the majority of information was kept in-house and not necessarily shared countywide. While there is a captain, I was contacted by San Diego Homicide regarding one case, and we had specific information that had not been contributed to Argus because of the standing that SDSU had at the time. And that is really the point of this, is to bring value to the county as well as provide greater information to Argus itself. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Josh Mays.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chief K. And again, my name is Josh Mays, and I am the current chief at San Diego State. Thank you for considering my request to become a contributing member agency and helping to formalize our relationship with Argus. For some context, currently SDSU Police has 41 Argus users with a projected increase to 50 by mid-2021 and an additional 25 users over the next 5 years. In an average year, SDSU Police handles roughly 45,000 calls for service. And as noted, we routinely make arrests of suspects that are linked to other cases throughout the county. We want to join as a contributing member agency to help strengthen the data already utilized by the region and fully operationalize our crime analyst. Given that our location situates us within the city of San Diego, we are routinely working with several agencies that border SDSU, including the 8 Freeway, La Mesa, and San Diego PD. Given this, our data contributions would be impactful, especially with the planned expansion of SDSU into Mission Valley as our footprint in the region grows. I respectfully submit that SDSU's request would prove mutually beneficial for the region and SDSU, and I appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you.
Okay, so before we go to member comments, well, first of all, is there any public comments on this, Tessa?
There are no public comments on item 6.
Okay, do we have any member comments? No member comments? Okay. So next step to add SDSU PD as a data contributing agency would be for this committee to recommend that action to the Public Safety Committee. Are there any committee members at this time that want to recommend that action? So Tessa, I'll go ahead and make the motion to add SDSU as a data contributing agency. Do I have a second?
Roxana Kennedy, I'll go ahead and make the second.
Tessa, you want to take a vote?
Yes, sir. For the action on item 6, Chief Gallucci,
Aye.
Chief Kennedy,
Aye.
Chief K,
Aye.
Chief Moulton,
Aye.
Chief Varso,
Aye.
Chief Vasquez,
Roxana Kennedy received a text message from Chief Vasquez. He votes yes.
thank you. Chief Tellez, I believe he's under Alex Hernandez.
Yes, aye.
Thank you. Chief McCoy,
Aye.
Assistant Investigator Cargill,
Aye.
San Diego County Probation Department is absent. Chief Stainbrook.
Aye.
Assistant Chief Albrechtsen.
Aye.
And Assistant Sheriff Martinez. And I apologize for having your title incorrect.
That's okay, thanks, and it's an aye.
Thank you. That item passes with one member agency absent.
Thank you, Tessa. Moving on to agenda item number 7, Business Working Group Update. ARGIS staff will present an update on the BWG meeting held remotely on Tuesday, April 21, 2020. The next BWG meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, June 23, 2020. It says location to be determined, but I'm sure this will be the location. So it says Katie Mugg will be presenting on this item.
Thanks, Chief, and hi, everyone. As you stated, the Business Working Group met via Teams on April 21st. The agenda items included, just to make sure, you all can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The agenda items that we discussed included, we talked about online secure meeting software options and what everybody's using to communicate virtually. The consensus seemed to be that within agencies, people were using Teams and different forms of WebEx when communicating outside of their agencies. We wanted to ask this because we want to make sure that we're following all the CJIS and DOJ requirements for working remotely. This was followed by a discussion on homicide cases that occurred before 1970 and the process for submitting this data to ARGIS and options as to how to get this data into our enterprise. ARGIS staff then, along with Aaron Jones, the chair of the Business Working Group, presented an overview of a potential new webpage on our portal, specifically for crime analysis. I believe we brought this to this committee a year ago when we were working with the LACC to try to develop a secure page for them. So we've done some mock-ups and this is going to move forward. So expect that to come to an upcoming meeting. We discussed a new ONS record type that would be created to address potential high-level threats. This includes threats to officer safety, school threats, school shooter, active shooter threats, etc. We're working with the agency's legal departments to get their feedback on this. And again, the next meeting is scheduled for June 23rd, the location to be determined. Any questions?
Are there any member comments on this item?
I have no hand raises.
Thank you. Tessa, are there any public? I'm sorry?
There are no public comments on items.
Perfect, thank you. All right, moving on to agenda item number 8. The next management committee meeting is currently scheduled for Wednesday, June 3, 2020 at 9:45 a.m. Location to be determined, but again, I'm sure this will be the location. Are there any final comments by members? Seeing none, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you, Neil. Great job.
Good job, Neil.
Chair, I see Chief McCoy's hand is raised. I didn't know
Yeah,
if you
go ahead,
wanted
Frank.
to call.
Sure. Go ahead, Frank.
Hey, just when we're not in a meeting where I can't see all who is attending, I apologize for my joke about Craig Carter. For those of you that have not been with this group for very long, years ago, Craig Carter negotiated a contract for Escondido, and we negotiated the same contract for about $20,000 less. And it's kind of an inside joke between Craig and I, but again, I apologize. I don't know everybody that's on this call, so I'll keep my comments, my humor to myself until I know who the audience is. So I apologize.
Duly noted, Frank.
No issues, Frank.
All right.
Chief,
got
that
it.
Varso has his.
Okay, go ahead, Ed.
Chief, you're self-muted.
Yep, I got it now. No, I just wanted to add that I've been sitting through this meeting thinking of how I was going to give Craig a hard time, and I just appreciate Chief McCoy for taking care of that for me.
I can feel the love.
Never to disappoint.
Then you can buy the donuts next time we see each other in person.
All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. Thank you for everybody for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief.